A little bit of transfer portal news, and of course we will look at games 4 through 6 for the Ole Miss Rebels this fall. This is the Locked On Ole Miss podcast.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Willis. As you can see, the Twitter handle below is at the Stephen Willis. You can give us a follow if you want to do that. We'll tweet about Ole Miss stuff. We'll be tweet about a little bit of everything. We just like to have fun on our personal account and it not really be associated to anything. So you kind of follow that to like me. I don't know. But anyway, thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. So do us a favor. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Of course, hit the bell for notifications when we release a new video and upvote the video itself. If we hit 1,000 subscribers on the YouTube channel by football season, that is before football season, we will do what we're calling post-game live. We have commitments from Ole Miss legends, high school coaches, and all that. There's going to come on here and talk about the game as they saw it and what happened. It's going to be about 30 minutes long. It's not going to be that much of a time commitment. And over here, there'll be basically a chat module where everybody can see what's going on and everybody can participate in the show. So this will be interactive. This will be open. It'll be post-game live right here on the Locked On Ole Miss podcast channel and YouTube feed. So pay attention to that. So it should be a lot of fun. Anyway, Ole Miss is playing in the transfer window. That is fairly normal, and we talk all the time how we're not sure exactly what it is. All we know is that 32 is ironclad, but we don't know which of the signees we made we've been able to count backwards. We don't know exactly what that looks like, and nobody's talking. Here's the thing. Nobody knows about that. But as it stands, I'm going to give a little bit of an educated guess, and an educated guess meaning basically being in that building and seeing how the math worked from time to time. But this might not happen. That's the thing, because I don't know as well as anybody else. Nobody's talking. Anybody that claims they have inside information is probably lying to you. But nobody's talking about what's going on inside the program. I think Ole Miss has 2 slots left. We're going to count Malik Heath because he can come in June or July because of that thing, but he's already committed. So that number's already gone. So going into after Malik Heath, there were 2-ish scholarships positions available. One, we heard pretty much since January, it was going to be Deion Smith, a great player. All of that, trying to get him to campus. He had some work to do academically to transfer inside the conference. I think he can go outside the conference if he wants to, but inside the conference, he has a little bit of work to do. And their final week is this week. So we'll know about his posted grades, whether or not he got it next week. So rumors should start coming out about Deion Smith next week. Jaylon Robinson, I'll post this up real quick. Jaylon Robinson is a wide receiver from Central Florida who is going through the process, and we've heard news about him being down to Ole Miss in Tennessee, but now it looks like he's going to take an official visit as well to Miami. Now, this may not be true. I may not know a single thing that I'm talking about here, but this is the way it reads to me. As somebody that's been in that building, you can listen to me to be a translator. I have no inside information. This is what this looks like to me. I believe, and like I said, I may not know a thing about this, Jaylon Robinson is the backup plan for Deion Smith. If Deion Smith does not hit his grades whenever Jaylon Robinson announced on May 18th, it's a coincidental date, isn't it? On May 18th, he'll announce his commitment there, and if he doesn't make it, he'll go to Ole Miss. If Deion Smith does make it, I think you'll see Jaylon Robinson go to Tennessee or Miami. Simple as that. I have like I said, no inside information. I'm just kind of reading the tea leaves there and understanding the 32 is a hard and fast number, and there's not really a way to get around that. And we have Jonathan Cruz that we had to take a kicker. Now, if we didn't have to take a kicker, we could take both of these wide receivers, but we have to take a kicker. And him taking a kicker, the receiver coming in, if Deion Smith hits his grades, all of a sudden you're good to go. But tradition has shown, over the last 6 months, you can see if Ole Miss wants a player in the transfer portal, they get the player in the transfer portal. Everybody talks about what Ole Miss can and can't do. And Ole Miss is, enrollment-wise, it's not the richest school in the world. It doesn't have the most tradition in the world. I said there's 3 ways you can build a roster. One is traditional recruiting. That'd be the Alabamas, the Georgias, the Ohio States, the Oklahomas, the Clemsons, like that. That's how you build your roster that way. The other is NIL, which is Tennessee, Texas A&M, Miami's getting in this game. Oregon is going to play hard in this arena. And you do that, you can build your roster that way, basically by, New York Yankees, the New York Yankees model. And the third way is the transfer portal. Now, sometime in the next 2 weeks, I'm going to have Eric Kane from Locked On Tennessee on the podcast, and we're going to go back and forth because Tennessee is doing the NIL thing. Ole Miss is doing the transfer portal thing. Now, we don't have, traditional recruiting, but I think everybody understands building their roster through traditional recruiting. But we are going to talk over and over about exactly what that looks like and the advantages that a different school might have. Now, Tennessee has the advantage, first of all, that the state of Tennessee is about 3 times the size of Mississippi. And Tennessee really, honestly, is the only show in town in that state. You can say Vanderbilt, you can say Memphis, but it's really Tennessee. Maybe MTSU a little bit, but if you go to Memphis, Memphis is more of a Tennessee town than a Memphis town. Memphis is more of an Ole Miss town than a Memphis town. They try to make it a Memphis town, but it is what it is. So you're going to see that. We're going to start working on both ways, me and Kane, to get our shows on the TV stations plus apps up there, by the way, these that you can catch on the YouTube channel anyway for free. This might be available in different locations, so you're going to see us kind of doing crossovers, and once we're both in there, kind of being a personality for each other and helping each other out. So that's something you can look forward to as well. Also, if anybody's listening to the show, leave it in the comment section below. I'm looking for somebody that can honestly be my colleague, be my counterpart, and run a Locked On Mississippi State site. That is one thing that we are missing, believe it or not, for this to grow, because Mississippi is honestly a weird type state, right? I mean, it just is. It's just a weird type state. And Ole Miss and Mississippi State, if they both exist in the same network, the totality for both of them can do better than any individual floating alone. So if you know anybody that can do a Locked On Mississippi State show, leave me a message in the comment section below. I'll pass it along to my contact at the Locked On Network, and we'll start this. This is a paid gig, by the way. They will pay you to do this if you are good enough to do it. So hit me up in the comment section below if you're a Mississippi State fan, or at least direct me in a direction to go. On Twitter, I sent a message to Logan Lowry. I think something needs to happen. But anyway, it's like a minimum of $350 or something like that, and they can help you guys out. But I'm looking for a Locked On Mississippi State to go with me, and potentially, eventually, a Locked On Southern Mississippi. And we get all of the 3 and do everything on the Locked On Network. You're going to be a boss. It's not my network. It's just a part of it that will help with selling local ads in the state. So that would make me very, very happy. All right, summer is coming, and with summer, you're going to need some food to go. Built Bars are the perfect snack to take with you on family vacations. Throw them in your bags, your kids' backpacks. Make sure that everyone has a bar so you'll be fueled for your summer adventures. Best part about the Built Bars, they're healthy and delicious. No more sacrificing food for health. With Built Bar, you can have both, and it's easy. All you have to go to Built.com and order now. I've went to Built.com and ordered a 12-pack using the promo code of double chocolate because it's absolutely delicious. And I'm really weird about protein bars, but Built does a good thing here. So go to Built.com, get all your favorites: banana, cream pie, raspberry, double chocolate, and so many more. They're all delicious, and new flavors are coming out all the time. Check them out at Built.com. Go there, use promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. All right, thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. Make sure and go check out Locked On NBA Big Board. Host Rafael Barlow from NBA Draft Junkies and author of NBA Big Board newsletter is joined by Richard Stamen, Sam Ferris, and Leif Thulin, giving fans an in-depth look at the NBA draft, mock draft, player rankings, and of course, big boards. It's free and wherever you get your podcast. It should be pretty cool. Kind of hitting NBA draft time, so we're getting ready to go. All right, now I do want to talk a little bit, honestly, about NIL, because the NCAA, I believe, is making the right choice by enforcing the rules that have always been on the books. They said no using this for pay-for-play. Now, if you figure out how to use this for pay-for-play, you're still breaking the rules, and people that get mad at the NCAA for trying to enforce their rules, that's just as much of a bad situation, honestly, while we live in such a corrupt society. So the NCAA is trying to rein this in. Why are they trying to rein this in? Well, the victims in this whole situation are the traditional recruiters, the Blue Bloods, the Alabamas, the Georgias, the Ohio States, the Oklahomas, the Clemsons. Those are the victims of this. And this is who the NCAA has spent the better part of 100 years trying to protect. Whenever you've heard jokes like Kentucky made the NCAA so mad they put Cleveland State on probation, that joke exists for a reason. Now, there's several ways that we can look at what's going on and what's happening. But the main thing is, I don't believe the NCAA needs to do anything other than what's already on their books. Just enforce that. Do not put your thumbs on the scales before the market has a chance to equalize and get everybody where it needs to be. Will it be ruffled for a little bit? Yes, potentially. But you not potentially signing every kid that's out there because you're used to doing it is not a reason to change everything. We need to see what this looks like. Right now, yes, the fire hose is on. People are drinking from the fire hose. We need to see the equilibrium that steps in. We have not had a single bust yet. We have not had a situation where boosters did not pay the amount that was promised. We did not have a situation where universities are bidding against these collectives. There's so many things and steps that this place has to take. We do not know what the actual market might be. Now, right now, it might have blown way up and everybody thinks that exactly is what is right now is exactly how it's always going to be. And that simply is not the case. There's still so many things. They're not allowing it to correct itself. They're seeing a bubble go up. They got to wait for that bubble to burst and then see what happens in the future. Now, here's the thing with these collectives and pay-for-play, because that is a problem. That is a major problem. It's the reason I talked about Nico Imaleva and mentioned how that was illegal as hell. And it doesn't matter how they word it and legalese to get around the fact that it's pay-for-play. They make it to where the kid can sign everywhere, but they can't. They won't pay him then. He won't get his money then. There's going to be something where there's no consequences on the back end, but it doesn't say pay for play at Tennessee. And these collectives have weird sounding names so they can disguise who they are to the layperson. I think the U.S. Tennessee calls themselves like Big Spire or something, Big Spire Sports or something like that. It's completely not Tennessee. But I think the NCAA, what they need to do also is these collectives, if they're attached to a school, and if you have boosters of a school in the collective, which almost all of these collectives have, it needs to be branded as Tennessee Volunteers Collectives. And it does not need to be a nonprofit. It needs to be a for-profit industry. And if they pay for play, the contracts going to the NCAA should be a quick turnaround. And if it is found out that those kids participated in pay for play, they lose their eligibility immediately. There's other pathways now. The kid can go play in the USFL. The kid can go play in the XFL. He does not have to go straight to the NCAA. The NCAA needs to make this a serious thing. Now, if that happens, the collectives are going to dry up because nobody's going to want to be out public. And you'll see that everything will come back down. The market will go back down and everything will work right. But the one thing we can't do right now is mess with the free market when it comes to NIL. We can't put our thumbs on the scale. No matter how ugly it is, no matter how we look right now, and no matter who wins whenever people are drinking from the fire hose. You got to be careful not to do that, because if you do that, you're going to increasingly make this worse. And then all of a sudden in 10 years, you'll have a worse product that everybody will say, see, I told you this was going to be bad. No, you messed with it almost from the beginning before it had a chance to work itself out. So you have this huge problem. And everybody is trying to think of ways to make this fair and equitable. To make this fair and equitable is no pay for play and let the market finish what it's doing. That's absolutely fair. If it's pay for play, yes, it's not fair and equitable because you can pay for play, get players on your campus. So I ask everybody, just be a little bit patient and understand that this could take a little bit of time, honestly. Put the comments below. Who do you think the worst offenders are in the pay-for-play NIL game? I am curious about that. Just name schools. Just start dropping down and find out what's going on. Everybody knows about A&M. Miami's a contributor. I think BYU got a shout-out at an argument or in an article, and I have no idea where that came from. But let me know who the biggest threats are to the NIL thing and throwing money around. Who's the Yankees of college football? It's probably Texas. Texas is probably going to get a Manning away from Ole Miss. It's purely based off of NIL. And they can do that. But remember, just remember, these people didn't make a ton of money by not being able to manage a ton of money. If they did, I mean, that means they're going to run out of money pretty quick anyway, and this isn't going to be as sustainable. So just be patient and let the market take care of what it needs to be taken care of. All right, this episode is brought to you by Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local auto chain parts store to stock all the parts you will need. Why often endure the pointless and seemingly intimidating questioning, is your Odyssey an LX or an EX, and wait while the person behind the counter orders the parts on their computers, choosing only the brand their warehouse happens to carry. You have computers with rockauto.com at home and in your pocket. It allows you to save time and money when using Rock Auto. It's a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. Their prices are reliably low for every customer. So go explore their easy-to-use website today to find the solution to your auto parts needs. So go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car and truck. Write Locked On their How Did You Hear About Us so they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices. All the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. All right, thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. Don't forget to rate and review us on iTunes. You can say whatever you want to say. Just leave us a 5-star review. That'll help others find our show via podcast on the iTunes app. So rate and review us, 5-star review. You can say whatever you want to say. You can say Steve is an idiot. Steve is a dummy. He only talks about stuff that he wants to talk about. Whatever you want to say it. It doesn't really matter. But if you could rate and review us and give us a 5-star review, we would greatly appreciate it. Now, let's move into game 4, 5, and 6 on this year's schedule. Now, if you look at it right here, we have a home game against Tulsa, a home game versus Kentucky, and at Vanderbilt. This is probably, believe it or not, one of the easiest parts of our schedule, honestly. The first 6 games that Ole Miss plays, Ole Miss could go 6-0, and they wouldn't have to be exceptionally good to go 6-0. Now remember, the first 6 games, 4 of them games are home games. And the road games are at Georgia Tech, which was essentially the Vanderbilt of the ACC, and at Vanderbilt, which for 100 years has been the Vanderbilt of the SEC. So going 6-0 is not the hardest thing to imagine for Ole Miss. Now, Kentucky and homecoming will be difficult. Will Levis is a good player. Keydron Smith and Jacquez Jones are playing defense there. That'll mean a lot to them coming home. And the Kentucky game is set up to be the game where kind of everything needs to be going right offensively. That's kind of the deadline for getting right. That's game 5, the deadline for getting right. But before we get onto that, we'll talk about the Tulsa game. The Tulsa game I think is going to be fun. Tulsa, Oklahoma will be interesting. They're the Golden Hurricane. I don't know 100% what that means, but they are the Golden Hurricane. And as you can see by their logo, hurricane flags are a part of their logo. So I think it's involving the windstorm, but they just added a color in front of it. I don't know. They gave Cincinnati a little bit of a game last year. Cincinnati was able to pull away towards the end. Philip Montgomery, I believe, is still their coach. He runs a Baylor-like system, so the offense are going to look similar. They're probably going to try and physically run the ball. It'll be a big moment for our offense, and especially the 3-2-6 and the base defense to look at them. It's a game that Ole Miss should probably be 7 to 14-point favorites. We'll see how it plays out. Now, Kentucky, we were talking about this early. This is the game of the first half of the schedule. It's not even close. For years, the first SEC game that Ole Miss played was Alabama. Sometimes Vanderbilt would be first, then Alabama. You almost always dealt with an Alabama game the first week of September. So more times than not, Ole Miss started the season 0-1 in the conference. Well, Kentucky coming to town, they are not going to be easy. This is a team that was in the Citrus Bowl just in January. And they are actually able to win that. And they came across, looking pretty good. They're not going to have Wan'Dale Robinson, but somebody like Barry and Brown is going to be there. So the offense is going to look similar. The offensive coordinator of Liam Cohen, he is not there. But they hired an assistant from the San Francisco 49ers. I don't know exactly how that will look. We always mention from time to time that coaches coming from the NFL to college, either they can get it or their team will suffer from paralysis by analysis. And we'll see exactly how that looks when they come here. But this is a game that if Ole Miss wins this game, they're looking at 6-0, 7-0, potentially 8-0 to start their season, because in the first 8 games, Kentucky is probably the most difficult. So if Ole Miss can get by it, they have a chance to do some damage. Now, this is a game that if Ole Miss is 4-0 going into it, I expect Ole Miss to be a 2 to 3 point favorite at home. It'll be a single score type line, somewhere up to about 5. But you can catch that game. I think it's going to be a little bit of a war. If you look at the Ole Miss Kentucky games and the recent history, you have the DK Metcalf last second catch to beat them in Kroger Field. I think that was in 2017. In 2020, they have the extra game that was played. Ole Miss actually beat Kentucky on a missed extra point in overtime. That was Lane Kiffin's first year. These are really hard-fought games, and they are played really close. And I expect this game to be fairly close as well, because Kentucky they're building something up in Lexington, and I don't think that people should make light of anything that's going on with them, because they have a chance to just work themselves up to being good. Mark Stoops is doing a really good job. And finally, they go to Nashville to take on Vanderbilt. Games at Vanderbilt is kind of whenever things go poorly, Ole Miss drops that game. When things go as Ole Miss expects, Ole Miss wins that game. And, not since James Franklin has that really been a springboard. It's more of a trap to be avoided. If you can avoid it, you can be fine. I don't expect Vanderbilt to be particularly good, but they'll be a little bit better than last year. I think Clark Lee is kind of the real deal, even if he is robotic and just kind of stuck in the mud with his analysis. But I think he's going to get this team a little bit better. The problem is they were so far behind the 8 ball to begin with that even incremental making them better means that Vanderbilt could be 3-9 this year, 4-8, something like that. So I expect them to be better than last year. I still don't expect them to be particularly good, and I think Ole Miss is going to be probably 10 to 14 point favorites in that game. But it's a game that, coming out of it, Ole Miss could be 6-0 and 2-0 in the Southeastern Conference, with Auburn coming up, who's predicted to struggle, LSU coming up, which I think they will be good. I don't know if they can be, but there's a chance to go on a little bit of a run before the nightmare part of the schedule starts, and that's kind of the end of it. All of this could be a lot of fun. I mean, this seriously could be a lot of fun for Ole Miss and Ole Miss fans. There's a path for Ole Miss to be quite good. There's a path for this to be quite an enjoyable season. But as I tell you guys always, it is one thing to be talented. It is quite another thing to be good. I want to see what this team looks like. I want to see if it can come together because they're going to have to deal with actually being this talented. There's not many Ole Miss teams that have walked in that have been this talented. But they have to put it together. Almost half the team is 4 or 5 stars coming out of high school. So that's kind of interesting to me. Anyway, thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. Tomorrow we will look at games, 7 through 9 on the schedule as it gets a little bit tougher. And also, Kara McCutcheon will be stopping by for her weekly spot as well. Now make your second listen the Locked On SEC Show. Get all your daily news in less than 30 minutes with SEC expert Chris Gordy. It is free and available wherever you get your podcast. And I hope everybody is having a good time. Catch SEC After Dark tonight. We'll be live streaming that at 8:30 Central on the Y'all's Conference Network YouTube chain, and also on my Twitter. It'll be streaming there as well. So you can catch that. We'll be talking about SEC stuff and kind of going off the rails and just having fun for about an hour tonight. So tune into that. But until tomorrow, peace.